started with doing housing developments, providing other types of consulting, and then eventually I started writing business plans. I was telling the group of students that I'm going to meet with this afternoon that my very last class that I had at Central Michigan back in 1988 was a class, entrepreneurial class, where I wrote a business plan for a mobile home company in Mount Pleasant. Fast forward 20 years, I started writing business plans based on that experience I had 20 years ago. And now, that's what I do. I write business plans. I provide small business consulting. Along the way, I felt that I was not doing a lot of work in Detroit. Born and raised in Detroit, Detroit supported me. Went to high school, my family members, my friends are there, and I really wanted to give back. So I saw this opportunity, and it was part-time, and even though I had my consulting business, I said, well, you know, I'm gonna give it a shot and see whether or not it will be a good opportunity for me. And it was a position with Techtown Detroit. Are you guys familiar with Techtown Detroit? Okay. I work for Techtown Detroit in their what they call a SWAT City program. I am a project manager, and I do it part-time. But the impact is definitely full-time. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But I just wanted to just go over my background, because I'm not just someone up here talking about something that was written in a book. Everything that you see in my books that are out there came from the years of experience that I've had in the banking community, community development, CRA, retail banking, investments, and I put it all in there. So you guys can actually buy my knowledge is what I'm saying, okay? Let's get going. Okay, so who knows what a microloan is? You know what a microloan is? What's the maximum amount that you can get for a microloan, sir?
That I don't know, but they're small loans to small businesses.
Yeah, well, microloans.
They're used internationally as well as in communities.
So traditionally, they were in third world countries.
Right.
To provide small loans to what we would consider micro enterprise businesses, very small businesses, because you had business owners who only needed $500 or $1,000, and that provided a lot of support for them. Back in the 70s, microlending came over here to the United States. Initially, the maximum amount was $35,000. During the Obama administration, they put the maximum cap to $50,000. Now, you have not just little small micro enterprise businesses applying for microloans. You have full-fledged businesses now that are applying for microloans. You say, okay, well, if the max is only $50,000 and they need $300,000, how does that work? Well, there's another category of lending, and I call it community lending, community loans. And those are additional nonprofits who lend above $50,000 but less than banks. Are you guys familiar with Detroit Development Fund? Familiar? There's a new fund. Well, it's not really new. There's a fund that I really love. It's called Michigan Saves, because it's a statewide lender. It's an energy efficient loan program. Well, they lend to business owners, especially restaurants. And I'll talk a little bit more about it, but those are those community lenders who lend. They can lend $50,000, but they might lend to $150,000, $200,000, some maybe even $300,000. Okay? Let's keep going. Okay, so identifying the right lender. I mentioned to you earlier, just because someone wants to lend money to you, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the right lender. And when I say that, this is what I mean. Some business owners, they just need cash to open up their business, okay? They just want to open up their business. But if you are a clothing store, don't you think you need additional cash to operate your clothing store? Why is that? Inventory. If you're a restaurant, don't you have a lot of employees and don't you have to buy food? Well, you need to determine, do I just need a term loan, which is a loan where you pay interest rate and pay it back over a set term, or do you need a line of credit where you can tap into it from time to time based on what your needs are? Then you need to take a look at what type of business are you? If you're a restaurant, well, there are a couple of funders out here who lend to restaurants. For instance, you have the Michigan Good Food Fund. They lend to restaurants, food-based businesses. Or you might have someone like the Opportunity Fund that might lend to you. Those are statewide lenders that can support you. So you have to see, okay, which one of these categories do I fall into? Then you talk about the amount that you need. We already know that a microloan is $50,000, but there's some microlenders that might only lend $25,000. So if you have a need of $100,000, one of the things that I really advocate, and this is where banks can play a part, is leveraging funders. What I mean by that is, yeah, you have this one micro lender that might give you $50,000, but your need is $100,000. Guess what? You can apply here, and you can apply here, and guess what? You still get your 100,000. So a lot of the deals that I work on, they're typically more than 50,000. So I've become this expert in bringing in different funders. And guess what? A lot of these funders like working together because guess what? They like to spread the risk. Isn't that what bankers like? Risk spreading. That's what you do in the micro-lending world. And then there are a number of other things. I don't want to talk about it, but business plan, whether that you have a grace period. A lot of business owners, they say, just give me the money and I'll open up and I'll pay the employees based on what's coming in. Well, that might not work. In theory, you think it will, it might not work. You need some additional capital. So when you look at getting funding for your business, not only do you need it for the build out of your business, but you need that working capital to cover your costs for 3 to 6 months while you get your revenue up to the point where your revenue covers your costs and hopefully allow you to become profitable. So when I talk about this particular slide, it's really a chance for me to talk to entrepreneurs about rethinking this whole loan process. Be smart about it. Because the other thing too, some lenders, when you get that check from them, you have to immediately start paying it back 30 days later. But guess what? There are lenders out there that say, okay, we understand that it's going to take you 2 to 3 months to build out your business. Maybe you just pay interest-only payments during that period of time and then start paying us back. Or they might say you won't have to make any payments until 3 months and then you make interest and principal payments. So you only know this information. I'm gonna make a joke here, so don't laugh too hard. Unless you go to my book and find out this information. Let's keep moving. Okay, so let's talk about some of the lenders that are out here. The Great Lakes Women's Business Council, which oversees SEED. I believe they're here in Ann Arbor, am I correct? Yeah, they're here. That's one of those lenders that's just outstanding in terms of providing capital resource for small business owners. There's also Michigan Saves, and I talked about that one briefly a few minutes ago. This is actually really my favorite. And that microloan, I consider them to be more of a community loan because they lend more than 50,000. They're my favorite because they're phenomenal with restaurants. And you say, well, it's energy efficient. What does that mean? When you have a restaurant, most of the stuff you have to buy is going to be new. Lighting, equipment. And guess what? If you follow their guidelines and buy it energy efficient, it buys down the interest rate. Right now, here it is bankers, the interest rate for Michigan Saves is 1.99 if you maximize the number of energy efficient items that they ask you to do. Bring it down to 1.99. Who wouldn't want a loan for 1.99? That's less than banks right now. Phenomenal product that we use a lot in the Detroit area. There's also First Children's Finance. If someone wants a daycare, and they need a building, they need to buy toys or equipment. First Children's Finance, they specialize in supporting daycare type of businesses. Then you also have the Michigan Good Food Fund I mentioned earlier. Does anyone know what is Michigan Women's Forward? That's the new name for the Michigan Women's Foundation. A phenomenal organization. They're very, very active throughout the state in lending to small business owners. Now, people would think, well, they only lend to women. Let me tell you a secret. They do lend to men, but they don't make it a priority and they don't promote it, okay? So if you're a male, you can apply for the fund. I've had a few apply because I thought it was a very good fund to fund their business. So just to let you know, they will lend to men. Then you had the Opportunity Resource Fund, Pure Michigan, the USDA microloan. That one is for rural businesses who need $50,000 or less. Awesome loan fund. And then we have, here's another favorite of mine. We were talking earlier, I think it was Charles, that said, hey, didn't you used to do a lot of work for Michigan Rehabilitation Services and helping businesses? I said, absolutely, I still do that to this day. I work with a lot of individuals with disabilities and helping them start their business. I travel around the state a lot. There is a microloan fund called the Michigan Employment Loan Fund, and that one is for individuals with disabilities. You know, so you have all these microloans out there. And this is only a partial list. I just wanted to highlight some of the ones that I work with a lot. In my book, I do list over 50 of them, but these are some of the good ones. So when I say I need you entrepreneurs to think smart, think about the different funds they are and what their purpose is and what their terms are. That way it puts you in a better situation that when you open up your restaurant, one, you can afford to make your payments. Two, you have good terms that allow you to really grow your business. But at the end of the day, you know what we really want you to do? We want you as business owners to come back and hire people from the community. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, okay? let's keep moving. So what is the impact of microloans in the urban community? So you got restaurants, you have urban farming is pretty big these days. I was speaking to Michelle, I was telling her that I once helped out a nonprofit create a microloan fund, and it was truly a mini microloan fund. It was for $500. Well, this nonprofit that I was working with to create this fund, they work with urban farmers or urban gardens in their neighborhood. And $500, that would buy seeds and dirt and equipment for a whole year. And it met the needs of that community because guess what? They also had a community market. So giving that microloan to that resident who was growing a farm allowed them to sell their goods in the grocery store to those in the community. It's a perfect fit, perfect fit. Then we talk about coffee shops. I'm gonna keep going because I want to talk about this right here. So in Washtenaw County, it says here in Washtenaw County that you have, let's see, 6.7% of your families have income below poverty. The county's capital income is $37,000. But if you look down at the bottom, that based on the number of people that are listed on here, you have a significant amount of people in poverty who do not have access to the services and to capital like the rest of the population. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Hopefully it's the next slide. So this next slide here, why is this important? Why is microlending important? Don't we all want a better life? Okay. This is a way to help fund business owners so that they can provide a better life, not only for them as entrepreneurs, but for the community. The ripple effect of microlending is that if I help this coffee shop that opens up in a low-income neighborhood, they're gonna hire from the community. Because I tell people all the time, those big box corporations are not gonna come into small urban areas. So we need the residents, the community to come in and start businesses. So that little coffee shop might hire 4 or 5 people from the neighborhood, but guess what? They start to make money. When they start making money, they feel good about themselves. They start to save money. Now they can go to a bank and get the IRA. Now they can fix up their home. And their kids are watching this. Our kids are very observant. They're watching their parents be feeling happy every day because now they have a job and now they're fixing their home. Now they might be able to afford to take 1 vacation per year. And guess what? Now that coffee shop is open, then someone wants to open a restaurant, and then someone wants to open up a clothing store. Now you see this whole ripple effect. And guess what? They're all hiring from the community. And because they're hiring from the community, now people, because they're able to fix up their homes, now the homes are being fixed up. The property values are going up. Now they're demanding better schools. Now they can send their kids to a local school because now they feel empowered. And guess what? That money they're making is circulating in the community before it goes out. If you do not believe there's a correlation between microlending and the revitalization of our community, that's a prime example that it can make a huge difference. Okay, you follow me? Everybody follow me?
Yep.
Okay, let's keep moving. Regular income stream, stress reduction. Hey, when you're making money, don't you feel good? My wife said every time I get a deposit, I get happy, okay? That's a joke, okay? It does. So if your stress is reduced because you're making money, you can pay your bills, you can maybe take 1 vacation or something, you're going to see the doctor now because you're feeling good, you're checking on your blood pressure. I didn't mean to correlate health and be running a small business, but Lila, there is a correlation. There really is. That if you improve your low-income communities with small business owners who are excited about there and help out the community, this is huge ripple effect. Okay? Let's keep going. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so let's take a look at, I went and got some statistics about tourism here in Washtenaw County. And one thing that stood out for me is that there was in 2016, there was a 1.1 billion total economic impact from tourism. That's huge. So now imagine if you get all these small businesses that were started by low-income people to be able to get, say, 10% of that tourism dollars. $100 million. Let's say they get 5%. That's $50 million. Do you realize that money stays in the community? They stay in the community. It's just a matter of giving them that opportunity. I know everyone has been following what's going on in the city of Detroit, the revitalization of Detroit. You always hear about what's going on downtown. New stadiums, big restaurants coming to downtown Detroit. Nike is down there now. I think is it Adidas or one of the other shoe companies is down there. They're building new towers. But the real revitalization of Detroit is not really happening in downtown Detroit. It's happening in the Jefferson Chalmers neighborhood, Grandma Rosedale, Southwest, the Avenue of Fashion, Brightmoor, because those communities are now coming to life. Did anybody watch the news this week? I think it was Tuesday, or Monday night or Tuesday. There was a profile about a business called Norma G's, the first new fast food restaurant to open in the Jefferson Chalmers neighborhood, which is on East Jefferson, just near Grosse Pointe. Did anyone see that? It was on the news. All the stations were there. It was in the paper. That was my client. I literally took that client, and I was showing Michelle a picture. In 2006, I used to sit at Take Time and write on the board how I was going to finance this business. And I took a picture of it. Yeah. And I showed her what it looked like in 2016. It was literally a whiteboard. Yeah. Now I show her a picture up under it. There's this restaurant. We literally took it from a whiteboard, his business, and created this wonderful, wonderful brick and mortar that almost every single employee comes from the community. His main chef walks to work. His servers, his prep workers, they walk to work. There was a press conference, the mayor was there, and they talked about Motor City Match and some of the other funding that he received. But it all started with the microloans. It really did. And I got a picture to prove it. Now, you didn't see me on TV. You didn't see me on TV. But when you look at this chart and that list, Prosper Us Detroit got approved. Detroit Development Fund, what I consider a community lender, approved. CIBC has their line of credit, approved. That's where it started. So when we talk about this is really, I got many more. But that one is so fresh, I had to bring it up today because it just happened this week because he had his grand opening. So when we talk about the impact of $1.1 billion, he is the catalyst for the redevelopment of that area. Now I have another restaurant coming down the street from him called Alma Kitchen. And then I'm bringing another one from Oakland County that's going to be right in the middle. And then I have a cupcake place that I'm bringing. It's going to be in between them. And then we got this bra store that's coming. And I got a pet store that's coming. These are all businesses I'm working with right now to totally revitalize that neighborhood. And every single one of them has at least 2 microloans. At least 2 microloans, because guess what? The financing works. And if you leverage it properly, it will get these businesses open and change the community. Now, my banker friends that are here, okay, we still need you. Because guess what? Some of our small business owners might qualify for some bank funding. So you might want to talk to me so I can get your card, so I can send you some business, okay? Let's keep moving. Okay, so just having the funding is not good enough. I was mentioning to someone out in the lobby area that, yeah, we can get the funding, but we need them to survive. We need to, we call it wraparound services. Really what you're doing, you're hugging them, saying, okay, business owner, I got you this money now, but guess what, I'm not gonna let you go yet, okay? Because guess what, I'm gonna bring somebody in here to provide you some additional mentoring, SBDC. Or maybe I'll have SCORE come in. And these are retired professionals who worked in corporate America who could provide you some free mentoring. And you know what? We're gonna get you QuickBooks, we're gonna send you through training, and then help you file your taxes for a few years so you can get used to it. Okay, and guess what? You need a website. So we got another partner out here who will build a free or low-cost website for you. But guess what? You know, you got to negotiate a lease. Guess what? I got some attorneys that would do some pro bono work. We call that wraparound services. Where we wrap our arms around these businesses and not just give them money and let them loose. Because guess what? They're going to fail, right? No, but when we unwrap them slowly with these support services, I think they will be okay. I think they will be okay. So we have to think about Michael Linda along with the other services that are here. You have Ann Arbor Sparks. It's a huge organization. You guys do a phenomenal job there. Wrap your arms around these business owners and really help them succeed. Because I tell every business owner that I work with, you gotta succeed, man. You have to. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it, because you are a catalyst for the rebirth of the neighborhood. So I'm not just gonna let you run free and just think you can handle it by yourself. Let's continue to work for another 6 months to a year together. And if you need anything, any additional mentoring or coaching, I'm there for you. If you need some resources, if you need more money, I can go get more money for you. If you need help with your taxes, let's make that happen. Or now there's this big thing of pitch competitions. Okay? They have these pitch competitions. You know, hey, 60 to 90 seconds can get you $5, $10, $15, $20,000. So let's look at the pitch company. That's free money. Or I had a client, I talked about the cupcake company that's coming into the Jefferson Chalmers area. Hey, this lady, she wanted money, and she wasn't waiting for her microloan. She went out and raised $9,000 through a GoFundMe campaign. I was blown away, but she was motivated. She had that motivation, drive, and determination to succeed, and she was pursuing as many free outlets of funding as possible. So when we talk about wraparound services, we must do that. I talk about a county aid society, where you guys have the United Way of Washtenaw County, legal services, and then you have other entities to help. So keep in mind, it's not just money they need you to provide wraparound support for them as well before you let them go. And then once they're going, if they need help, please allow them to come back and provide them support. Let's keep going. Okay, so here's a business case right here. Okay, there's a restaurant located in Ypsilanti, and they need $350,000, and it's owned by a Hispanic female, has good credit, will hire ex-felons, low-income employees, and is a Michigan limited liability company. So this is a real life example. I just changed accounting, changed a few other things. So my approach to this is, and I'm gonna go to the bottom of the list, and I'm gonna tell you why that's important. I mentioned that I do a lot of work for Michigan Rehabilitation Services. So I'm familiar with support that they can provide to businesses. When I saw ex-felons there, because I work with ex-felons as well, I know that there are on-the-job training programs for businesses. And when a Myers comes into a community or a Walmart, they're going for everything they can get from the government. Am I correct? Mm-hmm. Everything they can get. But guess what? Small business owners are going to do the exact same thing. Exact same thing. All they have to do is raise their hand and say, hey, what supportive services are out there? So when I see ex-felons, I think about on-the-job training programs that the state has. That if you hire an ex-felon that's working with the agency, they potentially could pay these salaries for 30 days. And when I bring this to my business owners' attention, I say that goes to your bottom line. That 30 days of salary that you would normally be paying, that's now covered by the state, that goes to your bottom line. And then guess what? Maybe you have a janitorial company and you want to hire returning citizens, but you're concerned about theft. Well, guess what? That's a federal bonding program that you can apply for, where the federal government will cover bonding that employee, that should anything happens, they know everybody be reimbursed and made whole.
Wow.
So when I talk about looking at business, I always start down there, because what I'm finding is that the biggest issue that we're having, to me, is not getting the financing, not being able to find the right wraparound services and provide to them. We're having employee issues, meaning finding qualified people to work for our business owners. I go way back to Norma G's that I just recently had the big grand opening on Monday. His biggest issue is finding qualified servers. Mm-hmm. Literally. We did all this for 2 years, worked together, and we thought about the HR, because I got actually one person from MRS working for him. We thought about it, but we did not realize at the end of the day, what gave him probably the most difficulty in opening was finding qualified people, okay? So we need to kind of up and fund our job training programs, because what has happened, he's only open in the evenings for dinner. He stays open late till like 12:30, but he's not gonna open up on lunch yet until he can find enough people to work for him. Okay, so you have these on-job training programs, these bonding programs that are out there, other incentives that small business owners can take advantage of, just like large corporations. It says a Hispanic female. Somebody said, well, can you really talk about race and gender and all that? Absolutely, there are funds out there specifically for those populations, and I talked about that earlier. So when I see that it is a minority in the Detroit area, I'm looking at a fund called the Entrepreneurs of Color Fund, which is managed by the Detroit Development Fund. That fund lends a lot of money to minority businesses in the city of Detroit. So I'm looking to see how can I tap into that fund. Restaurants. If you're a restaurant, what fund should you be applying for? Oh, you didn't listen to me earlier. What was the name of that fund? Michigan Saves. Remember that? Michigan Saves. So I see as a restaurant, I'm immediately going to Michigan Saves because I know they're going to have to buy a whole bunch of new equipment. They're going to need new lighting. And as long as it's energy efficient, it will buy down the interest rate down to 1.99. Now, I got the funding, okay? I get $350,000, I can get $150, I get $200,000 from Michigan Saves, I can get $50,000 from the Entrepreneurs of Color. It's a female, I can get some more money from Michigan Women's Forward. Now, what else do I need? I probably need a line of credit because I'm a restaurant. Remember I talked about a line of credit versus a term loan. So now I need a line of credit. Now, your lender might give you a line of credit for the build out, but I'm talking about a line of credit to help you out when you open your door. So we work very closely with CIBC Bank, used to be called the private bank. They have excellent line of credit products that fit perfectly for our population. So now we are working with a bank like CIBC that's providing a line of credit. So when the business opens, and after all the build out, they get this line of credit. They can go out there and focus on growing that business. And when they're done growing that business and hiring people, if they need more money, they can tap into that line of credit. Now, I bring the wraparound services to them. I keep my arms around them, help them out with accounting and anything else that they need in order to grow. Hopefully find good employees for them. And then we let them go and we move on to the next one. That's it for me. Thank you. So are there any questions? Any questions about this whole world of microlending? Yes, sir.
What is your favorite business to work with?
Oh man, that was easy. It just happened on Monday. Norma G's, but you know they're all my favorite. Because I take a personal stake in the business that I work with. I really do. I don't just help them out and be sterile about the relationship. I've created friendships because you're working, it's like marriage. You know, you're right next to them all the time. My wife can tell you, I'm always at meetings. I'm always meeting somebody. Right, Tressa? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, you know, I don't want to be biased about Lester, but really all my businesses. Because failure is not an option for me when I'm working with my business owners. I will be there until they open their doors and hopefully continue to be with them for a little bit longer to make sure they're okay. It's like your kids. You raise your kids, you got them by your side, you send them to college, but you can rope them in at any time. But when they graduate, listen, you're on your own, okay? And that's what I do. So all of my clients are my favorite. They are. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes?
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Who did your communications and media relations for Norma G's on Monday? Because it was fabulous. You got a lot of great coverage.
Oh, so you did see it. Okay. You didn't see me in the video? I was off to the side, but I was right next to him. Okay. I really was. You just couldn't see me. We hired a firm, TechTown. So at TechTown, we do have access to TA assistants. So we hired a PR firm to work with him over the last month because he's been wanting to open literally like for the last year. It was just liquor license thing, and one of the issues you might run into, and I'll come back and complete answer your question, is that when you open up new businesses, especially those like restaurants and bars, and they want liquor licenses, a lot of these urban communities have churches. So when you have churches that are nearby businesses that need liquor licenses, now you have to go through the Liquor Control Commission, and the community has a say in terms of whether or not you open or not. So we had to go through that whole process, and we actually went through it twice. It's a long story, twice. But when we saw it was time for him to open, we brought in a PR firm to provide support to him. And I remember getting the email, I can't think of the name of the firm right now. I know the lady's name is Jennifer, the owner of it. But she sent an email listing all the places that they sent the press release to who were going to cover it. And it was fascinating because literally 2, 4, 7, was it 50, I think it is, all the news, everybody covered it because they did a phenomenal job. So when we talk about the wraparound services, we wrapped around him to make sure they had a great start. Here's a joke. So I spoke to Lester Monday night after the opening. And I have a meeting this Saturday, and I was thinking about having him cater with some of his Caribbean food. He said, man, I got first guess, I opened up Tuesday morning, because he was actually he closes on Monday, so he was going to open up Tuesday after all this press. He said, I got to get back with you, because I don't know what it's going to look like come Tuesday morning. I spoke to him before coming. Yes, it was pretty crowded, because now all this publicity has happened, and now people are coming in droves to support him. Yes.
First, yes, thank you for speaking today.
Thank you for allowing me to come here today. Thank you.
Absolutely. I have a question. With all those companies that provide the funding, are there income limitations? That if you're making a certain income currently, that they won't provide the funding?
No. See, with microlenders, you don't have to have a job. A lot of it is predicated, one, on what impact you're going to have in the community. See, they have, and I just say that they have very flexible underwriting guidelines. It's all about economic impact. Most of the entrepreneurs that I'm working with, if they're working on building their business, they're probably not working. Now, I do have some who are working. The only one of those loans that I highlighted that looks at your income 100% of the time is the Michigan Employment Loan Fund, which is the microloan that's for individuals with disabilities. But most of the other ones, your business plan has to be strong. Your financial projections for 3 years have to be on point and follow industry standards in terms of percentages. You do have to have some capital, some equity stake in this as well. It varies from lender to lender to project. When I counsel small business owners, I say whatever it is that you're doing in this neighborhood with your new business, it has to be part of the entire economic impact of the community. You need to talk about everything else that's going on in there and what impact you will have. And I always tell them in your business plan, you need to talk about local hires. Because now you can get the lenders behind something like that. Because now they're seeing that you're not just plopping a restaurant down into a neighborhood. You really are going to work to hire people. Lester, I'm going to go back to Norma G's. A little bit different situation because there's a strong CDC in the Jefferson Chalmers neighborhood who actually leased the building to Norma G's. As part of their lease agreement with him, there was a certain number of local hires you have to have. So a little of this local CDC is making sure that any businesses that are coming into that Jefferson Chalmers corridor hire a certain percentage of people from the neighborhood. He blew that away. And it wasn't, he intentionally tried hiring people from the community, but it was just the incredible amount of people who had the skill set that he was looking for that were already in the community. So meeting the local hire requirements for the lease was not an issue. Okay. Any other questions? Now I'm very passionate about this, so I can talk all day. Okay, yes.
Do you see any gaps in the funding available or in the wraparound services?
Not many that cannot be filled. Okay. I work for Tech Town Detroit. I'm a portfolio manager, and I do this professional consulting myself privately for businesses around the state. There's somebody in there that can fill that gap. Once again, if someone has a good enough credit score, then we could bring banks in as well. You'll be surprised. There are a lot of business owners that actually do have great credit. But guess what? They might not have the equity requirements. Or they might be opening up a higher risk business that a bank might not look at. So there might be a number of reasons why some of the clients who are opening up businesses in low income commercial corridors who have good credit don't go to banks because they might not meet other things. But we so far have been able to fill all these gaps. Yes, great question. Yes.
Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
I have a question, maybe kind of silly. So I'm an international student at
Yes.
WCC. So what you said, does that only work for American citizens?
No. That's an excellent question. So there are a couple of lenders that I don't list on here that actually lend to immigrants. There's Prosper Us in Detroit, which is one of my favorite micro lenders. They only lend up to $25,000, $25 for existing businesses and $15 for startups. They lend to immigrants. There's also the Access Detroit or Access Microloan. They lend to immigrants. So to answer your questions, no, you'd be surprised, at least in Detroit, and I know it's probably similar here, we have people from around the world that are coming. okay? And they might not be US citizens, but they want to contribute to the local economy by opening up businesses, because that's what they would do in their home country. Well, we do have some lenders out there that will lend to non-US citizens, and we have a number of businesses in the city that have been open as a result of these lending opportunities that are available to them. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate
Wow, I learned a lot today. Thank you so much for your insightful and your informative presentation, Warren. We're so glad that you were here with us today. And thank you for the great questions and the spirited discussion, everyone. Please remember that Warren will be signing books in the atrium as you're leaving the building. Before you leave,